Hello, my name is Don Bartusiak. I'm the president of Collaborative Systems Integration, and I'm also the co-chair of the Open Process Automation Forum. Uh, in this talk, I'm going to address three topics. Number one, I'll talk about the status of the Open Process Automation standard, including the work that we're doing to build the business ecosystem to support it, and also the conformance certification process that we're starting up. An activity that I want to highlight under this topic is the work that we do to liaise with similar organizations. And what I will highlight in this talk is our work with Namur and others on module type package and Namur open architecture. The second topic in the talk is a report on current status of end user companies' activities building open process automation based control system prototypes and test beds. And I'll close with just a brief note on how end user companies can get started learning and using OPAS based systems. So to discuss the OPAS standard itself, the technical specification. The news is that we published version 2.1 of the OPAS standard in May of 2021. This table shows an overview of the table of contents and the subject matters in each of the part documents, and also the referenced standards in this OPA standard of standards. So just to call out a specific example, OPCUA is used very prominently for the connectivity framework. That's a key for enabling interoperability. OPCUA is also at the core of a lot of the information modeling work that is in the OPAS specification. So the reason we call it preliminary is we are soliciting comments on the OPAS standard from all industry, not just OPA forum members. So please, you're encouraged to download the documents and provide us your feedback on the standard. This comment period will be open for many months. And the way that you provide your feedback back to us is by sending an email to ogspecs@opengroup.org. Another thing to highlight in terms of communications with all of industry is that we are planning the next interoperability workshop, aka Plugfest, sometime in the third quarter of 2021. So what's on the roadmap for us is we're actively working on version 3 of the OPAS standard, where the key themes for version 3 are application portability, further specification of the distributed control node physical platform, and also a part document on systems orchestration, basically where we're leveraging and bringing technologies that have been developed in IT and data center services, cloud computing, bringing that into the scope of industrial control systems. On business ecosystem building, the really important thing to make everybody aware of is the OPA business guide, which if anyone's going to read any one document about OPA, this is probably the one to start with. So it's in the version 2.0 of the business guide is in final review now, but there's a link here to version 1. And in this document, we basically address what's in it for you, where you are each individual industry verticals, speaking about the end user part of the ecosystem. We also define and provide commentary on what are the business considerations for all of the stakeholders in this business ecosystem, so where the stakeholders include end users, systems integrators, suppliers, and service providers. The business guide also articulates principles, quality attributes, and goals, and sets forth the larger policies for conformance certification and contracting. Our business working group is where we do the marketing and outreach, where we're trying to communicate to industry at large. And our current theme is industry adoption. The business working group is really also where we center our liaison relationship management. And just to cite, again, some of the key organizations that we liaise with, which enables us to share information pre-publication. So some of those important organizations include the OPC Foundation, NMOR, Control Systems Integrators Association, and others. And finally, just some what's coming attractions here. We're planning an end user caucus event, an activity that's specifically focused and built for end users, trying to use this venue to collect additional input information from the end users that will help us set use cases and requirements for OPAS version 3. We are also planning to publish an OPAS implementation guide in the first quarter of 2022. Finally, probably our newest activity, and I'm really pleased at the headway that we're making here, is the startup of the conformance certification activity. So we published the certification policy guide a little bit more than a year ago. And in this certification policy document, it is explained how verification is done, how certification is done, who's the certification authority. In this case, it's the open group. We define a registry of products, and we also address the life cycle for managing certification of products. This chart on the right that I won't detail is a flow chart for the verification testing activity. At present, we are in discussions and negotiations with multiple organizations to serve as the verification labs that are part of the certification process. And what we're focusing on first, the first phase of certification, we call it Wave 1, that we want to have operational by first quarter 2022, will focus on the following facets and profiles. Cybersecurity, which is discussed in OPAS Part 2. This is the facet designator, SEC F001. We're also included in Wave 1 is the connectivity framework, which includes this part of the OPAS standard and these profiles. Systems management using the Redfish software product. And finally, the initial specification for physical platform. Now, what I'd like to shift gears here and talk about a key liaison activity, which is OPAP's relationship with the module type package and the more open architecture initiatives. So let me start the story by saying there's broad consensus of a desire for change and improvements to currently available distributed control system technology, which is depicted here on the left. So what is apparent out there is it looks like there's two ways of proceeding. There's a branching activity here. And the two paths are the more open architecture and module type package. And the other branch of activity is the open architecture. And the message that I want to share, and I'll elaborate on this on the next slide, is that these should not be considered as competing and exclusive activities. And the point that I really want to make that I'll elaborate on in the next slide is that we really don't want the momentum and the initiative for improvements to stop, let's say, once the more open architecture and module type package have been accepted. And the reason for that is that this branch leaves in place the root cause of the business problems that have motivated the open process automation initiative. And that the root cause is the closed and proprietary nature of the distributed control systems and the, let's say, PLCs that are in the marketplace. And so the case that I'm making, and let me do that with the next slide, is I really would like industry to see this as stepping stones in an evolution. So let's say if your frame of reference is the Moore Open Architecture and Module Type Package, those initiatives, NOAA and MTP, are welcomed. They're stepping stones in this journey. And this chart here in the middle of the slide is one that was developed by Michael Kraus of BASF, Jorn Obczynski of Siemens, and myself for presentation at the Namur General Assembly meeting in 2017. And what you see is a harmonious integration of Namur Open Architecture and MTP in the context of the OPA reference architecture. So just to reinforce the point further, if you look at the OPA reference architecture, it's a little subtle in this small chart, but what you can see is that the functionality of Namur Open Architecture and what MTP does for us can be achieved in a harmonious way with a holistic design. So the goals and the vision that I want to share with the remarks here at Achema Pulse are stated here as follows. Rather than point solutions, what we're really trying to accomplish is a harmonische Design. Ganzheitlich System, offene Architektur und die Plattform für digitale Transformation. So these aren't just idle words, and I want to back up with action what we've been doing to try to align and harmonize these initiatives for improvement. And that's why I use this liaison relationship as the highlight here. So in 2018, we established, the Open Process Automation Forum, established formal liaison relationships with Namur and ZVEI. And at present, what we are working with, given Namur's decision to select Profibus International as the organization to host the internationalization of MTP as an IEC standard, we are trying to liaise with Profibus organization to actively participate in this important work. So let me now shift to topic 2 in my talk, and I want to highlight activities by end user companies on prototypes and test beds of OPA-based control systems. And I'm going to highlight at different levels of detail the activities of ExxonMobil, BASF, the Georgia Pacific affiliate of Koch Industries, Saudi Aramco, and Petronas. First up is ExxonMobil. So there's been quite a bit of reporting in the press. ExxonMobil has been very candid and open about reporting its progress. And as many of you may know, I retired in October of 2020 as the chief engineer of process control. So what ExxonMobil is currently working on now is what they call their test bed. And this is the third time that ExxonMobil, it's a scaling up. This is their third OPA-based system building activity. The components in ExxonMobil's OPA test bed are explicitly depicted here in this chart on the right. I will not spend the time to verbalize all of the components and the suppliers in this. This has been well reported by presentations and writings by Harry Forbes and Jim Montague, so there's places to get more information. The systems integrator for ExxonMobil's testbed work is Yokogawa, and what's going on here is that this testbed is the mechanism for testing and staging an instance of a system that will be built for the first field trial in manufacturing service. And it really is for ExxonMobil to provide further details there. The second activity I'd like to highlight is the work by BASF, which was done a couple of years ago for the purposes of demonstrating open process automation module type package in the Namur Open Architecture. This is a picture of the demonstration unit that was first showed at the Namur General Assembly in 2019, I believe. You can see the list of the components here and the companies that supplied those components. And the systems integration work was done by a combination of the academic workers from the Technical University of Dresden and also code rights. Next up is Georgia Pacific's work, where this information hasn't been formally disclosed in detail yet, but there's been enough that the information I'm going to share is in the public domain. Georgia Pacific is using DCN components from the list of suppliers here: Rockwell Automation, Phoenix Contact, Siemens, Schneider Electric, Stahl, and Yokogawa. Their systems integrators for this work are Hargrove and Siemens, and the purpose of this building activity is a portable unit that Georgia Pacific will take around its fleet of paper mills, basically to kind of build momentum among their company for this change. And finally, just to mention briefly, the two most recent announcements on prototyping and testbed activities were by Saudi Aramco, an announcement that was made the middle of last year, 2020, building a testbed at their headquarters in Dhahran in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where Schneider Electric is the systems integrator for this work. And more recently at the ARC Forum virtual meeting in February of this year, Petronas announced it's starting to build an OPA testbed, almost certainly in Malaysia. So finally, to close, I want to address the question for the end users. How do we get started with open process automation? And so now I'm really going to speak about an initiative that my company is taking, Collaborative Systems Integration, in partnership with Seaplane AI, where we're offering OPA starter systems and a structured training program. So there'll be an announcement soon with more details on this. So I'm only going to be very, very brief in these remarks. But here, what you see on the right is a scaled down schematic of what this starter system will consist of. And we are sourcing the components from a multiplicity of what I call OPAS aligned suppliers, right? So this precedes formal certification, but we clearly know what suppliers are aligned with the OPAS vision and are either providing products that are in the right direction of the OPAS standard or are making preliminary commitments to build OPAS conformant products. And so what we hope that our customers, the end users, will learn from this activity is a tangible demonstration of the benefits of open process automation, which by category will consist of increased value generation, reduced total cost of ownership, and the ability to achieve safety and security by design and adaptation of a system. So to close this talk with the summary, what I've addressed is, version 2.1 preliminary of the OPAS standard was published in May 2021, and we're actively encouraging comments from all of industry on this standard to help us make it better and more fit for purpose and useful. A very high priority for the Open Process Automation Forum is alignment, Ausrichtung of OPAS, module type package, and NOAA. OPAS certification activity is ramping up with wave 1 that we intend to have operational by the first quarter of 2022. At least 5 end user companies are actively building OPA prototypes or testbed using multiple OPAS aligned systems integrators and suppliers. And as a coming attraction, OPA starter kits and training are being developed by OPAS knowledgeable systems integrators. More information to come soon on this final point. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope you found this useful.